Welcome back to the Two Promises podcast. Let's dive right into another exciting adventure with BD and crew as he pursues his new passion of one day finding the most epic bourbon. The Two Promises team send their special thanks to Hobie and the Huckleberries for their masterful theme music. So grab a glass, relax, and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey and I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon. Baby, you try the ride.
Yeah, and I think Nick said two really good things, and you as well. It's just like, well, first of all, I believe that like no matter what the creative endeavor is, whether it's commercial or one might stay in that art world of art for art's sake, there's an authenticity that can happen with how that thing is produced. Much in how like my view in marketing has changed as we've been doing this, but we can get into that later. But like, you know, the first thing was that, you know, a lot of the stuff you're doing early on is finding your way, finding your voice. What is that? And that's why a lot of it doesn't really work very well, because all you can do in the beginning is pull from yourself, but also reference. And I think that was happening a lot with what we were trying to build is like, you know, we want it to feel like X. And so you go over there and you're looking and you're feeding. And because you're still developing the capabilities, you're really just kind of referencing, recreating a little bit. And so the work really wasn't, I guess, what I would call, man, I hope your listeners are in for like an aesthetic journey, but like embodied is what I would say. Like there's a difference between developing proficient technical skills to execute something you reference in the world and something that you embody as a voice of a unique individual, as an artist creating a piece, creating a work. And so that's more taking all of those things, looking at yourself and passing it through that filter. And what typically comes out is something more authentic, something more embodied. You know, it's like the adage about all the best writers write from what they know. They write their life. You know, whatever skin they put on it and whatever character they invent is still like Uncle So-and-so. You know, it's like somebody they knew. And I think art is that way. Like, so, like I think we hit our stride in embodying the vision for the game that we wanted at some point by pulling together all these references of things we loved, but then practicing it enough to iterate it to the point that it actually belonged to us. And then, yeah, like the second part of that is like, man, it has to live in the real world, you know? So like when you talk about making things for a client, making things for a board, like a card is a printed thing. And so, man, in the beginning, I was making these like really cool big panoramas, horizontal landscape things. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then you go and you put it on a vertical playing card and you're like, oh, wait, this doesn't fit at all. This is, you know, just the simple idea of a rectangle versus a square, or like the image space and the size. And also like I'm a detail junkie. And so like one of the things you're going to get with the game is like a refinement of detail, but there's like tons and tons of line work and like value. And, you know, when you look at something on a max resolution HD retina display, it looks amazing, or in a sketchbook page that's large, but when you stick it on a 2.5 by 3 or 3.5 playing card, it turns to mud because all the lines get really close together because you had to scale it down. And so like finding the functional balance between now the thing that we really liked was a big learning curve, because I'd never really done anything like that. I've made a lot of physical art, but it's always been physical at scale on the medium. I've even done digital stuff for people's branding and identity. But yeah, it's like, oh, this actually has to live on a card. What is the component? What is the size? Oh, when someone holds it in their hand, can they actually read this text, this font? Is it legible? Is it readable? Two different things. So yeah, like I have actually, case in point, as a little teaser, there may or may not be a pretty well started prequel to this game in the work.
Excellent.
And like the groundwork that we laid whenever we were doing that, like I did probably on the art side in like 6 months or less what it took me years to do before. And that's because I kind of had an understanding based on, this is how I want to do this in terms of its authenticity, but it also has to function. And so I know how to start with my artboard, and I know how to like scale things. Like, yeah, so I think it is a both and. Like you don't always, I don't think, at least for me, start with the technical application of the deliverable, right? It's more for me about the artistic journey and like finding what is authentic and good, and then I can think about how to make that fit. But you have to consider those things because it's the reality of the delivered product.
Yeah, and on my side, I've got a blank 2.5 by 3 inch square, and this is where the art goes. This is where the text goes. This is, not that I do the design, but like a prototype is, our first prototype was a marker on a piece of paper, sketched it down. We were prototyping the day we came up with the idea, and that's kind of advanced, but that mixing of those two is interesting. I will say, you mentioned the authenticity, and I completely concur. It's something that has kept us sane. I think our perspective, and I think mine at least continues to be this way, is that a lot of business practices, whether intentional or not, are exploitative. Like they're about value extraction. So we struggled conceptually, philosophically with marketing for a while because the vast majority of times we've seen it applied, it is exploitative. It's like, my goal here is to extract maximum value from you while putting in the least. Now, it may be that that's the mechanics of it, but it doesn't have to be your mentality. And so the exploitative part about the, hey, let's make this thing good enough because we have, we have a deliverable, like we have something we have to do. What is good enough in that kind of thing is like, we need to reduce our effort here. We need to have as little effort going in to get the outcome that we want, which I like as a general business practice. When you add value into that and authenticity or things you care about, it can start to get, I did customer service for a long time. It was like, look, what we want to do is like give, the mentality being, let's help people. Let's create an experience first.
Yeah.
And we can get more efficient at creating great experiences. So the objective isn't that. And so we had this moment where when we came back, we decided to really do it. We said, throw everything away. What is our purpose? What are we trying to accomplish here? And the thing that we came up with as our guiding light is we want to get this game into the hands of people who want to play it. And suddenly looking at marketing wasn't, how do I exploit people to get value out of them while spending the least? It was, how do I find the right people and communicate this thing that I know is amazing for them? Because there has to be more than two, one Nick and one Micah in the world. And we found at least one other one, Brent.
There you go.
And so if that's the case, we sort of do that. But I will say that authenticity is like expensive to you personally in the effort and energy that you put in. Whereas, one of the things we realize, and this is not a knock on this practice, but the business reality for most board games of this size is they need something on the page, on the card, on the whatever that people like, and they need it as cheaply as possible. And it is the work, energy, and intensity, which would equal money if you weren't the business partner, just isn't going to happen for most games. Because it's like, how can you justify, I don't even know what the number would be, but we're talking, it would have to be tens of thousands of dollars, plus all the energy and effort to find that person. Because when Micah is doing his thing, and, I think this is incredible about Micah, but I don't think it's unique to Micah. I think it's true of everyone. Like, no one else in the world can do that. People can now reference it, like you said, Micah. They can copy it. And there's a huge draw in producing a product to look at something successful and reference and copy. And what Micah's strong belief in not doing that has kept us from doing that. And I think hopefully made something that does stand out and is unique, but is also authentic. So the goal isn't to stand out and be unique. The goal is to be authentic. And this is what we ended up with. Does that make sense? I don't know what your listeners actually like. This is we're all over the place here, but
no, you guys are touching on a lot of deep concepts that I find them really interested in and engaging. And I mean, just on that piece there, that is one thing that from looking at the artwork, from playing the game, it is unique. It does stand out. It is not like any other game that I have ever played in the amount of detail that has gone into those individual, like, I probably getting the name wrong, but like the character cards or your class cards of like your ships, like it's more detailed than some of like the, like say a handbook, like a player's handbook or something like that. Like the line work, what stands out, it's very pointed towards the like historical style, right? It's like what I would think of as what would a pirate sketch look like from this era. It really kind of has that draw, but then again, it also blends that fantasy element. So I'd say that you kind of you really hit the nail on the head of embodying that kind of what you bring to the table outside of what you're getting from some of the other games and big box stores that you're going to and seeing. I mean, you guys are also touching on some really deep like leadership, project management areas. For instance, you were talking about, hey, I like to be able to control this aspect. I like to be able to drive this aspect. And like, even at the very beginning, it's like, hey, do we let this baby go or do we grow this child ourselves? And I think that is a struggle that all leaders, all managers are going to go through at some point of how much runway do I give these people? How much rope do I give these people? And how much do I really need to maintain? And I think that as people grow and progress as leaders, they find that balance a little bit better as they go, but it is something that each person at some point, if they're moving into that leadership realm, are going to have to grapple with. And some of the things that from mentors that I've had, from my own experience, managing projects, leading people in the Navy, is one quote that one of my mentors gave me one time that really stuck out. Sometimes in that delegation realm, kind of the pucker factor of leadership. One, as a leader, me giving somebody an amount of control that I might be uncomfortable with kind of makes me pucker up a little bit. Like, oh man, are they going to do okay? Are they going to be able to make this happen? Is it going to meet the expectations? And then on the other hand, trusting them with a baby, trusting them with a lot more rope, then hopefully they have that pucker factor too. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he trusted me with this much. I'm going to protect this. I'm going to do the best job that I can possibly do because he gave me this much runway. So I think trying to find that balance is something that I've tried to aspire to, that I've tried to find, and a lot of times helps avoid that micromanaging feel. And a lot of times you're going to get a better expression, a better result out of it because people are that much more engaged in it because it feels more like their own.
Yeah. Man, that's good.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time reorienting ourselves to what we're trying to accomplish and you know, what could good look like. And that requires a lot of discussion because as you progress, you develop that in different ways. But when we do that, it both helps us, I think, look back at, are we focused on the right things? Are we putting our limited energy into what we should because we're not infinite sources? And are we holding ourselves accountable to that? And if the answer is we don't really want to, or we don't, like, we have to kind of change those things. So, and then the third thing I would add there is like roles. So if you know what you're trying to do, you know what good looks like, or you're developing that and thinking about it, then how are you contributing? I think those, like, what can you contribute? How can you contribute? Like, those three things enable that autonomy. You know, like you said, the investment, and that's something that we, even just with the two of us, you know, when we're starting up a company, we have to wear every single hat. And at one point in time, we were just like, look, I think I would like to take this hat on full time, you know, or only this hat, you know, so can I have it? And do you want that? And then we're going to share these. And so, like, I think those leadership things, even it's the two of us, we're co-founders, we're partners in it, but we do take lead in different places, but we still need that external structure of why are we here? What are we trying to do? How are we assessing how we're doing against that? And how are we contributing? And then are we keeping that alive? You know, so when I think of the project management system, it's like identifying those different things and then building in the process to make sure that it can continuously happen in a way that works for us. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's so good, and it's so true. And you know, I love what you said about you know, the delivery of the game on the table. And I love hearing that from somebody that's not me or Nick, because that is one of the core things that we often talked about it. We lamented, like, man, the box art on this game looks so cool. And then you look at it on the table, you're like, what happened? You're like, well, where did it go? Where did all the theme go? Where did all the fun go? Like, but yeah. But we like staying true to those core things that we've done has been challenging, but always anchoring back in the right spot. And I'm really thankful for Nick's ability to kind of see those big picture things and like create systems around trying to invest in control. Cause, you know, like he's right, you know, you with a 2-person team, the more and more we discover, the more and more we have to do. And there's so many things, I think, just like this happens to us in life too, that can feel emergent. You know, it's like, I need to do this thing right now, you know, when in reality, it's like, okay, it's really not that emergent. Like, let's get a big view of what's going to happen over the next week, break it up into different roles, how we're going to handle it. Or maybe even this other thing should take priority before we even think about that. So he's very good at all those things, which I'm extremely thankful for, because I'm mediocre at best at it. So it keeps me in line.
That's awesome. He does have being able to experience from the game world on the video game end. And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is like being able to take what you've learned in those other elements and bring it to this has been really great. I'm extremely jealous of our energy. And I feel like, you know, one of the roles I've tried to take on is like a guardian of that, which is weird because like you sort of do that against yourself and against the other person in a way. Like there's times where I think if it was just up to Micah, he would just illustrate for hours and hours, and we'd have, there's been times when I haven't been around and I come back and Micah has like 300 illustrations he's done, you know, which is all fine, you know, but like, you know, once we have that objective or those other things, is like making those decisions and saying, but also listening, because, you know, to your point is like that authenticity that Micah was talking about. No one gives that unless they want to. So in a business environment, you can have a designer and they're going to design, but to add authenticity, they have to choose and they have to engage, and it will cost them energy. It will cost them those kind of things. So, you know, I'm just extremely jealous of our energy and wanting to make sure that we're using it in a way, not that delivers against the business per se, but that delivers against the value that we are saying we want, and then changing that if what we say and what we actually want isn't the same.
Yep.
Absolutely. Those are some super great points. I want to be respectful of you guys' time as well. I know we're getting a little bit close to the deadline, so giving it to you guys to wrap up a little bit. I just wanted to kind of ask a couple questions. One, where are you at in that crowdsourcing funding campaign? How can we help out? Where can people go to find your product, find how they can support you guys?
Take it away, Nick.
Yeah. So we would like to launch the crowdfunding campaign mid-March. One of the things that we've learned as we've moved into this current phase is we should only do that when we're confident that it will be successful. And there's a variety of reasons for that. We talk about it a good bit, but probably the biggest one is like we want to deliver on what, you know, for people like yourself that have taken the time to sort of, you know, invest in us, even just time or even an email address, which is one of the most useful things that we can get is like, you know, it's like, we want to actually make sure this is successful. And so we're targeting mid-March, March 18th, I think it is, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. And we're currently planning to launch on BackerKit. But the way that you can really help is going to get.tortugasgames.com. So we're Tortugas Games. We've got a website, but get as in acquire it, get.tortugasgames.com. That's an overview of the game, and there's an email address there. If you give the email address because you're interested, then we do two things. We bring you in to, you know, you're on our Discord, like you get all those different things. You can help shape the game. You can get more information about it, and those different things along those lines. And we can tell you when it's happening. So if you want to do that, that's the first thing. The second thing would be then just, you know, sharing that. There's nothing more important than you telling someone else, hey, I tried this thing. It was really cool, and I think you would like it. Mm-hmm. You know, our goal isn't to sell as many games sell as many copies as possible. Our goal is to find the people that would enjoy this game and hopefully communicate it well, and they see if they want it, and then they can go after that. So I think those are the two things, so for the crowdfunding and signing up and sharing that. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, get.tortugasgames.com. And we've got a Facebook group that people can join, and Instagram as well. We even have a TikTok. And so we're posting across different social medias with Tortugas Games. And all of it can be found even on our website as well. And, we have a link tree as well in any of the social media applications that you can find whatever your social media of choice might be. I think we're there. So.
Excellent. That sounds great.
Yeah,
so
we'll provide those over to you.
What's that?
We'll provide those over to you so you can put them in the doobly-doo.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great. We'll get you all linked in there. Super, super stoked to have you guys on. I'm excited to maybe have another episode. Maybe we can do some video and maybe play test a little bit or something along those lines.
That'd be awesome.
Get a little view of them, overview of them rolling the dice.
Oh,
That'd be great. Absolutely.
I love the idea.
Sounds great. Well, again, I really, really do thank you guys for hopping on, spending the time with us, and I'll give you guys the last word. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up? Mainly
just thanks for having us on. It's been
absolutely
cool getting to know you. I'm glad you took a chance on us at Gen Con. It's that's the other part of this that's been really cool, is just getting to know other people and the journey that they're on. So thanks for letting us be a part of yours.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you all so very much. Look forward to talking with y'all soon. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. All right. See you later.
Thank you for joining us today on this curious roller coaster of life. If this is your stop, please exit peacefully. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're ready for another one, just push play. Just a final note before you go. Thank you. And thank you for feeling. The distillation and aging process is different for everyone. I'm not quite sure what you're ready for. Sip slowly and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey and I'm feeling fine. Drinking that slow, slow